Somebody said, how do you feel being 104 years old? And I said, well, I'm not sure because this is the first time I've ever been this old. and I can't really say. I said, but it's good.
Wow. What a remarkable man. I could feel his energy. He got to meet 3 uniform members in different capacities, yet we were honored and humbled to meet him, but he was excited to meet us. And I still feel the buzz. I still feel the energy, and I still feel the drive and passion and resilience that was in that room.
When I came here, things are quite different from what they are now, because they had organized a union. And before I came here and heard about it, they had no union. And the workers worked, for instance, if you took a trip from Vancouver to Toronto and you were 5 hours late, then you didn't get paid extra for the 5 hours. You just got paid for the number of hours that you used. But when they got the union, then they got a clause where you'd have to be paid for overtime. If you were to arrive at the station at a certain time and you were 4 hours late, then that was considered overtime and you were paid for that. The Pullman Company in the United States, they got their unions first. And then the Canadian Pacific porters got theirs secondly. And so A. Phillips Randolph and a bunch of them came up from the States. And they got together and they organized this union. And then they organized the porters union here in Canada, sleeping car porters. And it was such a great help to the porters, you know. They also got their holiday pay. If you're off a holiday for a week, you were on your own until they got the union. And then the union got holiday pay. They got sick leave pay. So it was a great thing that happened. And of course, it wasn't peaches and cake for us either. We had our good times and our bad times. And people still looked upon us as servants, you know, even in the better days. You had to be obedient, you had to be friendly, and be careful what you said to a customer, because they might understand what you said and report you as being not nice to them.
I sometimes wonder, I know that we deal with racism and we've been taught, and to what you said, there's a politeness that we just deal with, that we turn the other cheek because we're providing for our families. What kind of impact does that have on an individual?
Well, it had quite an effect, because there were times when you had to pretend like you didn't hear something, or pretend like you didn't see something that you saw and heard. And for the older people, like my grandmother was a slave. She was a slave. And she was 17 years old when slavery was abolished in 1965. But of course, she was in the United States. But it started down south. They brought the people over from Africa. And of course, they couldn't speak the language, and they just had to do what they were told. And she had a master and a mistress. But luckily for her, her young mistress taught her how to read, taught her how to write, and how to cipher. Well, cipher was doing mathematics. And but so many of the slaves, they weren't supposed to learn to read, write, or cipher, you know, because the dumber they were, the easily be found. When you know something, then it's hard for somebody to knock it away from you. And then when I came to work for the CPR, I worked as a porter. Then I became a porter instructor. And then when CPR transferred to Via Rail, I became a service manager.
You never thought that you would live to see a Black president, a Black vice president.
I never thought I'd live to see a Black mayor, governor in a southern state, because we grew up, See, when I was growing up, segregation was king. 100 years ago, segregation was king.
You think that our fight is diminished in terms of reaching a place where it's equitable, or do you think we have to fight harder?
I think we have to still fight harder. We're not at the goal line yet, because you can look around and see you think something is all okay, and a few weeks later you find out that it isn't. So we got to we've made great progress, but there's still further to go.
What about the people that say that racism is something from the past? Why are we still talking about it? What would you say to people that think that way?
Well, I would tell them, well, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It may always be there, but you can trim it down, and it has been trimmed down.
Mm-hmm.
When you see what some of the black people are doing now.
Yeah.
Like a black vice president, a woman vice president
Kamala Harris
of the United States?
Yes.
Who would have ever thought that could happen?
Yes.
And she's great.
She is. Would you say that unions played a pivotal point in assisting with the movement being progressive?
Very, very great. A great point.
Mm-hmm.
The unions.
Yeah.
The unions. When the unions got going, it just helped so many people that had never been helped before. Mm-hmm. And it made them realize that they could do better than what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The union was great. That was a great movement. When I started working on the railroad, well, there were very few, just the odd black sleeping car conductor. They were all right. But the union got together and they pursued, and they started hiring more black sleeping car conductors.
How important are trade unions to Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities?
When we started working for these low wages, when the union organized and it gives you a better way of life. Mm-hmm. Unions are very, very important. Be good union members and do what you can whenever you can.
Can you unpack what you mean by being a good union member? What does that look like to you?
Well, it looks like to take an interest in. Take an interest in what the union is all about. Find out what it's all about. And understand what it means to be able to help yourself. Because when you're helping the union, you're helping yourself. Make the union strong. And work as a group. And that's the way we did, because when we started, boy, I'm telling you, we didn't have much way to go, but up. We couldn't have gone lower. 35 cents an hour? My grandmother was 94 and she died. My mother was 92. But I've lived longer than any of them that I know of. And that was because of the segregation on the railway where we were working. Because as I spoke before, that some of the really terrific guys worked as porters that should have been conductors. And some of the guys that was working as conductors should have been shaking sheets and yeah, and shining shoes. And it was just the other way around.
Segregation in the workplace obviously was very much a pivotal point for the.
Well, the people tolerated it. They couldn't do anything else. Mm-hmm. If you wanted a job, you had to take the second-class job. Mm-hmm. And luckily, if things went good for you, you'd move up.
I'm proud of Unifor. We are bargaining racial justice advocates in all sectors across this country. And what moved me the most was, and it brought me to tears, is Brother Mimms would have been a VIA member. He would have been a uniform member. And I sat at that bargaining table and presented to the employer along with all of the locals across this country. And I started the presentation at, are we on track for racial justice? And my next slide was a picture of Black porters that worked on the trains. We need to know our history, but we need to be able to put it together so that we're making real actionable changes to move forward. And bargaining a racial justice advocate that has been committed by not only the National Union, but the actual leadership from locals across this country is really going to be the meaningful change that members today are going to feel the impact from.
2, 3. Yeah, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you
so
very
much.
much. You made my day.
You made our day and our
Yeah.
lives. Thank you for everything you've
Oh,
done.
yes, thank you.
Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, I'm take you back to your room.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Good.
thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.